Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today, we're talking with Ashley Murickan, product marketing manager, Volvo Trucks North America. Ashley, how you doing? I know you've been on before. You're an old pro, but how's everything going since we talked to you last?
So far, so good. Still working from home. Yeah, waiting to get back to work, actually. Want some physical contact, but yeah, so far, so good.
Today, we're talking about driver safety, right? I think one of the biggest things, it was always a big talking point even before the coronavirus pandemic here about driver safety. Driver retention recruitment was big in everybody's minds. But now with the pandemic of a lot of people like us working from home, truck drivers could not do that. They were essential. They were on the road while we were all hunkered down. And I think this has really renewed the focus on keeping drivers safe, keeping them productive, keeping them happy, keeping them comfortable. Lots of changes in the and evolutions in the truck safety space. So we're going to touch on the whole offering, right? Really get down to what's available and what fleets can take advantage. So first
Yeah.
question, the new active systems, the driver assistance systems get a lot of attention these days, but passive systems are still important, right? Can
Yeah.
you kind of walk us through what are the standout passive systems and how fleet managers can ensure they're being used correctly?
Yeah, definitely. Passive safety are those technologies which basically protect the driver or occupant that's in the vehicle in the event of a crash, like after a crash happens, or at least protect them from serious injury. So technologies like the main one is putting on your seatbelt. Basic, right? Click it or ticket. So you gotta have your seatbelt on. So like Volvo was the first one to introduce the three-point safety belt in 1959, and we decided not just to keep it to ourselves, but we released it to the world. So we're really proud of that. So putting on your seat belt is very important. That's one of the main passive safety technologies out there, right? And other technology is the airbag right in front of you.
Sure.
Collision, the airbag should get deployed and protects you from serious injury. And then there's also a side airbag as well, like in the event of a rollover. So there's an airbag side which you can have as a passive safety technology as well. There's many more technologies. And another thing that Volvo is really proud of is the high strength steel cab. Like our cab is completely made out of high strength steel cab. So in the event of an accident, you're really protected. Consider comparing it to an aluminum cab. If you take a beer can, and it's easy to crush an aluminum beer can, whereas if you try to crush a soup can, it's a little tougher. Right? Same concept.
Sure. Right.
And then this high strength steel cab for Volvo has been put through some crazy testing. It's called the Swedish impact cab testing, where you have like this lot of weight hit the A pillar in the front, hit the roof, hit the back, simulating like the load hitting the back or the front hitting a tree. And then the main result of that is that you'll have to have the driver always has space after the impact to get out, and also the door is always designed to open after. So after an accident, you don't want the energy to come through to the driver. You want the energy to be dissipated elsewhere. So we have like our engine and our transmissions are mounted on flared frame rails, and because of that, the engine and transmission can sit a little lower. So what happens is when you meet with the front collision, the engine mounts and transmission mounts will automatically dislocate, and the engine and transmission will drop downwards because of the flared frame rails. So it prevents the engine and transmission from coming into the drive.
I remember, I don't know if it's still there, but I remember even being in the plant a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where they had some of the displays, some of the images of an incident that was pretty horrific, but the drivers and passengers were okay, showing off that high strength steel safety. I remember seeing that very vividly.
Yeah, you've been there, right? Yes, we always make it a point to show that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you really get a sense for how important that is, and you kind of get that gut wrenching feeling of how terrible those things are. But when you keep people safe, safety really starts at the speccing phase, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And with that in mind, there have been lots of advances, actually relatively very quickly in terms of advanced driver assistance systems. And I know that some of it also can be correlated into different levels of driving autonomy and self-driving technology. Can you explain the difference there of what's available in terms of ADAS systems, level 1, and then some of the more advanced, newer level 2? What's the difference there, and how can fleet managers keep that straight?
So level 1, for example, is the adaptive cruise control that we have on our trucks, as well as many of the cars and all the vehicles out there. So the adaptive cruise control, where the system is capable of controlling both the braking as well as the acceleration. That's level 1. But doesn't mean the driver shouldn't pay attention and not even care about pressing the brakes or accelerator, because the system is capable of seeing vehicles in front of it as well as stationary objects, and it can brake or accelerate accordingly. But let's say if you're approaching a red light or a stop sign, it's not going to stop. It's up to the driver to take control. So it's purely a driver assistance system, right? That's level 1. And then level 2 is, along with braking and acceleration, it helps with steering as well, steering assistance. So not only in the longitudinal direction, but the lateral direction. So keeping you between the lanes. So again, this is again a steering assistance system. I've got to pay attention to the road, because the system will give you control at any time. Let's say the line markings are off on the road, or many situations there where you have to take control. So those are the differences between level 1 and level 2. So,
well, and even that on the steering, do you have to have your hands on the wheels at all time? You can't take your hands, right? There are sensors there, so it'll start yelling at you if you take your hands off.
It'll start yelling at you, exactly. So the whole point is that the driver has to definitely be in control of the driving environment. They can't just ignore it. Right. So it keeps exactly.
Well, and even then, I mean, you mentioned the braking, which is a really cool feature, but we've seen advances in that regard in terms of, 3-4 years ago. It would have been more of a, and still is, an emergency situation. Someone cuts in front of the truck, it'll hit the brakes back off. But now there's braking down to 0, right? Where you can avoid that. But it's not a one size fits all, right? I mean, that's kind of depending on what that truck is capable of. Is that right?
Exactly, what the truck is capable of, and then at what speeds you're going, what kind of brakes that you have on your truck as well. That matters as well. Let's say if you have drum brakes with disc throughout your, then it'll brake even better with disc brakes. So it reduces your stopping distance. So like you said, exactly, depending on what the truck is capable of, what speeds you're going, what situation you're in. So the main thing to keep in mind is to purely use this as driver assistance systems. Don't be fooled and think that you can ignore the driving environment and the system's going to do everything for you. So.
Right. I like that drum and ADB comparison, because I don't think any driver gets in a truck with air disc brakes and thinks, oh, good, I can really slam on the brakes here and be okay, right? I mean, they have to be aware, and it doesn't so much matter if they're aware and being cognizant of what's happening and in control, even as the systems are helping them do that, right?
Definitely, yeah. They have to keep all this in mind.
Do you have any advice for fleet management? I know steering is really relatively new. Any advice for, how fleet managers can, one, make drivers aware of what systems are in the different trucks maybe that they have in their fleet, and two, maybe some driving behavior from the equipment side of what they can expect and some best practices beyond just the being a great driver, being aware and that kind of thing, but what they can expect from those kind of systems?
Definitely you'll notice that even though the different systems are level 1 or level 2, but each system will feel different in each OEM's truck. Let's say even if there's 2 OEMs putting the system from the same supplier into their truck, the way they integrate it into their truck will be completely different. The way the visual alerts will be different. The audible alerts will be different. The way integrated into your DID will be different. Like you can take Volvo, for example. Our blind spot detector is integrated into the DID, into the A pillar, right? The right hand blind spot detection, the visual alert. Whereas if you see with another OEM, it might be an extra bracket that's attached to the A pillar. It'll be protruding out, and then they'll have the visual alarm there. And then there'll be another OEM where the visual alert will be on the mirror, on the side mirror. So it could be different for different OEMs. And then at Volvo, like for example, we have a heads-up collision alert. So right before the event of a collision, you'll have a heads-up red light show up on the windshield telling you that, hey, if you haven't taken control by now, this is your last warning, and it's going to show. There's no way you can miss that. So unique to Volvo, and so different like that. You'll have different alerts for other OEMs as well. So it's important for especially a fleet that has different OEM trucks in their fleet to train their drivers to, hey, these are the alerts that show up on this truck, and this is the reason why these alerts show up on this truck versus these are the type of alerts you're going to get on another truck. So even though the end result is the same, where it's going to try and mitigate a collision event, but the way the alerts show up, because all these alerts are there for a reason. They want the driver to intervene and take control. The best example would be, let's say, I'm sure you've seen this video when you've shown up to our customer center when we present. There's a truck going in a 2-lane highway. It's really dark and it's foggy. And there's another truck that was kind of jackknifed and blocking the whole 2-lane highway with their trailer. And there's no way for the driver to see that trailer there because it is so dark and foggy. But if they had a radar, it would have detected that there's something there and warned the driver to press their brakes and stop. Or even if they didn't, depending on how fast they were going, they were either mitigated the crash or the crash would have been less severe. So stuff like that, you know.
Right. And I guess something I didn't realize either, I figured between OEMs and the integrated systems there, the systems might behave differently. But I guess I didn't realize even as far as suppliers that I might be working with if I thought, I'll commonize the platform across all the OEM nameplates I have there will still be little idiosyncratic behaviors within those because of how it integrates, huh?
I mean, they need to train them on like the level 1, level 2, what the system's capable of, as well as its limitations as well, right? You don't want to, under-trust the system or over-trust the system as well. I mean, over-trusting the system could have its negative effects as well, because in today's time and day, you get distracted driving is huge. You have so many things to distract you, from Waze to Spotify to phone calls to so many. So you don't want to get complacent and think that the system's going to do everything for you and just ignore the driver environment. So they should make it a point to educate the drivers, to let them know that these are purely driver assistance systems, and to trust it, but don't over trust it.
Right. It's kind of, you want to take advantage of it, but you don't want to depend on it, right? It's not a crutch or a place. Ashley, thanks so much for taking the time. Always great catching up. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, right?
Yeah, you too, man. Can't wait to meet you in person soon. Yeah.
I know. What a beer here pretty soon, hopefully.